begin with our past. Humans evolved in wild places, where we were clawless and fangless creatures, mostly slower than both our predators and our prey. We needed to survive in these circumstances, which meant that we evolved to make snap decisions, to narrow our focus, to run or fight or freeze, and to hide the complexity of the world from ourselves. In the forest, these were life-saving capabilities. Now, as the world has changed so quickly around us, this habit our minds have of shielding us from complexity has become not life-saving, but dangerous. Not a way to thrive, but a trap we fall into. This is why I call these automatic responses mind traps. Let's talk about 5 of these mind traps that are the most dangerous when we're facing into a complex world. Here's the first trap. We tend to believe we are right about most things most of the time, and we collect data that reinforces that sense of our rightness. This is great if you're trying to make a snap decision about a noise in the bushes, but it is not at all helpful if you're trying to weigh a complex choice, like whether to open a new branch in an uncertain market. It turns out, our sense of certainty is not the result of a careful thought process as we think it is. It's really an emotion like irritation or anticipation or delight. We rely on this emotion as though it were a cognitive process. We believe that we are right when we feel right. But these things are not connected at all. This is us being trapped by our sense of rightness. We feel right, we pay attention to the data that reinforces our sense that we are right, and we dig deeper and deeper into the trap. The escape from the rightness trap is to notice the emotion of certainty and to use that as a bridge to ask more questions, to listen, to learn from those around us. The second trap comes from our collective love for stories. For as long as we can figure, humans have told stories with a beginning, a middle, and an end, with heroes and villains. These stories have enabled our communities and religions and organizations to form and grow strong. They also drastically simplify the world around us and tend to make us believe we have a sense of what's coming next, or that we know how a person might behave. This was probably helpful once, but in an unpredictable and complex world, our simple stories trap us by hiding the full set of possibilities and risks from us, and they can mislead us into danger. One escape for this is to see that we are telling ourselves a simple story, and to see that we have typecast someone in our story as a villain, and to wonder, in what ways is that other person a hero in her own story? The third mind trap comes from the human need to belong. Our finding our way to know which tribe is ours and to be tightly included in this tribe has allowed us to band together and work for collective good throughout human history. It becomes a trap when, in a complex, uncertain time, we're likely to privilege agreement as a marker of belonging, and we get trapped by that agreement. Even as we are drawn to those who agree with us, we are drawn to polarize against those who disagree with us. This amplifies our differences, robs us of helpful diversity, and creates unhelpful organizational and social cultures. To escape from the agreement trap, we need to welcome diversity and then learn how to engage in healthy forms of conflict as we disagree to expand the possible range of solutions. The fourth mind trap comes from the delightful experience of being able to control our own destinies. Humans love the feeling of being in control of things, of putting our hands on something to steer it into a better tomorrow. The problem is that in complexity, there is no one person or even one group who has a steering wheel. By definition, complexity is filled with interacting and interdependent pieces, which means we're trapped by our need to control when we actually try to force an outcome to happen. As we try to control a complex situation, we tend to create perverse consequences that often lead us in exactly the wrong direction. The way to escape our control mind trap is to lean into experimenting and learning from complex situations, knowing that we cannot control outcomes, but we can try experimenting to influence the conditions that create better outcomes. The final mind trap is in some ways the master switch of them all. I call it the mind trap of ego, because the biggest barrier to our changing is, well, our own ego, our own sense of ourselves. We have worked hard to become the person we are today, and any change means risking. We might look stupid or irresponsible or have to give up on some cherished part of who we have been in the past. Research across all ages shows that most people believe that most of our major changes are behind us. We protect the person we have been, and that prevents us from being the person that a complex world demands we grow into. The way out of this trap is to learn about our own developmental path and to always be considering who we might like to become next. So there you have it, these 5 mind traps: rightness, simple stories, agreement, control, and ego. When we fall into these traps, we're acting as though the world were still the straightforward landscape where our ancestors fought or ran or hid their way to survival. But knowing about these mind traps and their escape routes helps us to evolve ourselves, to keep growing and changing, to not only survive, but thrive for a better tomorrow.